You roll up your shirt sleeve, flex your arm in front of the mirror, and feel that tightness in your chest. Nothing again. Your arm is still the same as last year, maybe a little harder, but the same size. And the worst part isn't the mirror. The worst part is remembering that you trained biceps every week without fail, lifting dumbbells, doing set after set, counting reps, sweating profusely. You did the hard part, but your body didn't give it back. Then the guy at the gym shows up who trains half as much as you do and has twice the arm size. And you start to believe that phrase that destroys more people than any wrong workout. I don't have the genetics for arms. Hold on to that idea for a minute. Because in the vast majority of cases, the problem isn't genetic. It's not a lack of effort. It's not a lack of discipline. You're doing everything you were taught to do. The thing is, almost everything you were taught about arms came from magazines, sponsored bodybuilder videos, and advice from friends who also don't have arms. Nobody explained the mechanism to you. Nobody told you the exact signal the muscle needs to receive to decide to grow. You received scattered instructions, not a system. Muscle doesn't respond to effort. Muscle responds to specific stimuli. In the next few minutes, I'm going to give you 8 things that really move the needle on bicep growth. No fluff, no magic supplements, no 30-day program. Each one has a physiological explanation behind it and an instruction you can apply in your next workout. Stick around until the 8th one, because it's the simplest of all, the most ignored, and it's where most of the growth actually happens, outside the gym. The first one is the phase you throw away. Every repetition has 2 halves. The upward movement, when you pull the weight, and the downward movement when you lower it. You probably give it your all on the upward movement and drop the weight on the downward movement in less than a second. This is the habit that erases half of your workout. The downward phase is called the eccentric contraction. The muscle remains active while being lengthened, holding the load against gravity. It is precisely there that the greatest tension in the fibers and the greatest mechanical stress occur, which is the main trigger for the body to understand that it needs to build new tissue. Resistance training studies consistently show that emphasizing this phase generates a greater hypertrophic response than the same volume with a rapid downward movement. In practice, count 2 to 3 seconds on every descent, without exception. If you can't control the descent, the weight isn't yours, it's gravity's. Hold the weight on the return. That's where the arm is built. The second is stretching under load. Have you ever noticed that almost everyone does bicep curls with their elbow glued to their torso and stops halfway through, never fully extending their arm? This is the mistake that robs you of the most valuable part of the movement. When the muscle is forced to produce force while in the most elongated position, the growth response is significantly greater. This has a name, training in the elongated position. The reason is that in this position, the fibers undergo more mechanical deformation and activate more intensely the pathways that signal muscle protein building. And there's an anatomical detail. The long head of the biceps crosses the shoulder joint, so it only truly lengthens when the elbow is behind the body line. In practice, incorporate the incline curl into your workout, sit on a reclining bench, let your arms hang loosely behind your torso, and perform the movement from there with your arms fully extended underneath. It stretches underneath. It's uncomfortable. That's exactly why it works. The third is the difference between tiredness and failure. You finish the set, feel the burning sensation, drop the dumbbell, and think you've reached your limit. But most of the time, there were still 3 or 4 repetitions left. Burning isn't an indicator of stimulus. Being close to failure is. The body recruits muscle fibers in order. The smaller, more resistant ones come in first, and the larger ones, those with the greatest growth potential, are only called upon when the first ones can no longer cope. In other words, the fibers that most thicken your arm only appear at the end of the set, when the bar starts to rise slowly. In practice, in at least one set of each exercise, go to the point where you could do a maximum of 1 or 2 more repetitions with clean technique. If the last repetition of the set seemed easy, it didn't count. The repetitions that hurt are the ones that build. The room is the volume that your recovery can support. Here we have 2 groups of frustrated people. The first does 6 sets of biceps exercises per week and thinks they're training. The second does 35 sets, trains arms 4 times a week, and doesn't grow because they never recover. Hypertrophy happens within a window. There's a minimum volume that activates the response, and a ceiling above which you only accumulate fatigue without building anything. Research in strength training indicates that a range of 10 to 20 weekly sets per muscle group works well for most intermediate practitioners, distributed across 2 to 3 sessions. In practice, count how many straight sets of bicep curls you do in a week. If it's less than 10, increase it. If it's more than 20, cut it and improve the form of the remaining sets. More isn't always more. Better is always better. And this is exactly where most people get stuck. Because understanding these principles in a muscle is easy. What's difficult is understanding that the entire body works this way, through signals, rhythms, and hormones, and not through the simple rules that the fitness industry sells. That's why I created the White Protocol, a practical guide for those who want to lose weight or gain muscle, integrating what neuroscience, physiology, and behavioral psychology have already discovered about the human body, and that no personal trainer has ever taught you. If you think you need an expensive gym, imported supplements, or an extreme diet to transform your body, you're wrong. Real transformation is triggered by biological mechanisms that most people completely ignore. If you want to unlock your results and build the body you've always wanted, click the link in my bio or the pinned comment and get the White Protocol now. When you understand the rules, you're in control of the game. Now the fifth one, which is where your workout leaks without you realizing it. It's called the traveling elbow. It's that movement where, when the weight gets heavy, the elbow slips forward, the shoulder rises, and the torso leans back. You continue lifting the dumbbell, but the muscles actually working are the anterior deltoid, the trapezius, and the lower back. The biceps has a well-defined mechanical function, to bend the elbow and rotate the forearm. Every time another joint comes in to help, the load is redistributed, and the tension that should be in the arm spreads throughout the body. You feel the effort. The biceps feel the relief. In practice, lean your back against the wall and do a series of bicep curls without letting your shoulders, hips, or head move out of contact. If you need to swing to lift, remove weight. Weight that demands balance isn't weight, it's ego. And ego doesn't show up in the mirror, it only shows up on your training plan. The sixth factor is the grip, and it literally changes which muscle grows. What you call the biceps isn't just one muscle. Beneath it is the brachialis, which is what pushes the biceps upwards and creates that lateral volume in the arm. And on the outside is the brachioradialis, which gives thickness to the forearm and visual continuity to the arm. The biceps works more when the palm is facing upwards because it's also responsible for rotating the forearm. The brachialis takes over when you use a neutral or pronated grip, with the palm facing downwards, because in that position, the biceps loses its mechanical advantage. In practice, distribute your training between three grip types: supinated curls for the biceps head, hammer curls for the brachialis, and reverse curls for the brachioradialis. Big arms don't come from one exercise, they come from three angles. The seventh is the building material. You can get all your training right and stay the same size for a very simple reason. There is no new muscle without new raw material. Each training session increases the rate of muscle protein synthesis for up to 48 hours. The body is literally left with the work underway. But work underway without material doesn't become walls. And here comes the part that almost no one wants to hear. In an aggressive and prolonged caloric deficit, the body prioritizes survival, not building. Gaining mass requires available energy. In practice, aim for around 1.6 to 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day, distributed across 3 or 4 meals, and maintain a slight protein surplus if the goal is to gain muscle. Eggs, chicken, beef, fish, milk, beans, and rice. Nothing exotic, nothing imported, nothing expensive. What the muscle recognizes is a consistent supply of amino acids, not the markings on the label. Training is the order. Food is the delivery. And the eighth, which is the simplest and most ignored of all, the night shift. You don't grow in the gym. In the gym, you break down. Growth happens during sleep, mainly in the deep sleep phases, when the body increases the release of growth hormone and reduces cortisol, which is the hormone linked to stress and tissue breakdown. When you sleep 5 or 6 hours for several nights in a row, you keep your body in an inflammatory and catabolic state. That is, it spends more time breaking down than building. Research on sleep restriction shows a drop in testosterone in healthy young men after just 1 week of insufficient sleep. In practice, 7 to 9 hours, at the same time each day, screen away from the bed and dark room. Treat your sleep as if it were the most important series of the week, because it is. Sleeping is training, except with your eyes closed. Now look back and notice the pattern. None of these 8 items require expensive supplements, premium gym memberships, or impossible diets. They are all adjustments to execution, dosage, and recovery. You don't need to train more. You need to train with intention and let your body finish the job. Tell me in the comments, which of these 8 are you going to try in your next workout? Write the number. I read them all, and it's interesting to see how many people discover on the same day that the problem was never genetic. If you've made it this far, you already understand that results are a consequence of mechanism, not random effort. That's exactly what the White Protocol organizes for you, from training to sleep, from hormones to behavior. Click the link in the bio or the pinned comment. The body you want isn't waiting for willpower anymore. It's waiting for the right instructions. Start today